Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Leviathan and watched the stars through the massive viewing screen. The ship moved silently through space like a metal mountain floating in darkness. At 12 kilometers long, the Leviathan was the biggest warship humanity had ever built. Its hull was black as midnight and covered with weapon systems that could destroy entire fleets. The bridge sat high in the front section, giving Morrison a perfect view of everything ahead. The year was 2387, and humanity had been exploring space for over 200 years. They had built colonies on dozens of worlds and created the most powerful military force in known space. The Leviathan was the crown jewel of this fleet, a Titan-class warship that represented everything humans had learned about war and survival among the stars. Morrison was 42, years old with graying hair and steady blue eyes. He had commanded smaller ships before, but the Leviathan was his first Titan-class vessel. The responsibility felt heavy on his shoulders. This ship carried enough firepower to level continents and a crew of over 8,000 people. Every decision he made could affect the lives of everyone aboard. Lieutenant Amy Harper sat at the communication station, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. She was young, maybe 26, with short brown hair and quick eyes that missed nothing. Harper had been monitoring space radio signals for the past 6 hours during their patrol of the Outer Rim territories. Most days brought nothing but empty static from the void between stars. "Commander," Harper called out, her voice cutting through the quiet hum of the bridge systems. "I'm picking up something strange from the Kepler 442 system. The energy signature doesn't match anything in our databases." Morrison turned toward her station. Captain Lisa Grant, his second-in-command, looked up from her tactical display. Grant was a veteran officer with 20 years of military service and scars from the border wars. She trusted her instincts more than computers, and her instincts were telling her to be careful. "What kind of energy signature?" Morrison asked as he walked over to Harper's station. Harper's screens showed waves of data flowing like digital water. "It's artificial, sir. Definitely not natural phenomena. The pattern suggests some kind of advanced scanning technology, but the frequency ranges are completely unknown. Whatever is making these signals, it's not human." The bridge fell silent except for the soft humming of life support systems. Every person present understood what Harper's words meant. In over 2 centuries of space exploration, humanity had never encountered another intelligent species. They had found ruins on dead worlds and evidence of ancient civilizations, but never actual living aliens. "How far out is the Kepler 442 system?" Grant asked. 2 days at standard cruise speed," replied Navigator Rachel Stone from her position, near the helm controls. Stone was a quiet woman in her 30s who knew stellar navigation better than anyone else in the fleet. Morrison felt his heart beating faster. First contact with alien life was something every space officer dreamed about and feared in equal measure. The protocols existed, but no one really knew what would happen when 2 different species met among the stars. "Set course for Kepler 442, Morrison ordered. "Maximum cruise speed, but keep our weapons powered down. I don't want to seem aggressive if we're really dealing with aliens." The Leviathan changed direction with the grace of something much smaller. Its massive engines created no sound in the vacuum of space, but the vibration traveled through the ship's hull. Morrison felt the slight change in artificial gravity as the vessel accelerated toward the unknown. Dr. Kevin Walsh, the chief science officer, hurried onto the bridge carrying a data tablet. Walsh was a thin man with nervous energy who got excited about new discoveries. His eyes were bright with curiosity as he approached Morrison. "Commander, I've been analyzing the sensor data from Harper's initial detection," Walsh said. "The energy patterns suggest incredibly sophisticated technology. Whatever is out there, It's using scanning methods that are decades ahead of our current capabilities. Hostile? Grant asked. Walsh shook his head. The scans appear to be scientific in nature. Geological surveys, atmospheric analysis, biological. Scanning. It looks like someone is studying the fourth planet in that system very carefully. Morrison nodded. Scientific surveys were a good sign. Hostile aliens probably wouldn't waste time cataloging rocks and plants before attacking. Still, he had learned during his military career that first impressions could be deceiving. The next 2 days passed slowly as the Leviathan traveled toward the Kepler 442 system. The crew prepared for possible first contact while Morrison reviewed every protocol and regulation about meeting alien species. The documents were mostly theoretical, since no one had ever actually done it before. When they finally dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system, the alien vessel was exactly where Harper's long-range sensors had predicted. Morrison stood on the bridge, looking at the main screen, while his crew worked to get detailed scans of their first alien contact. The ship was beautiful, in a way that human vessels never were. Where human ships looked like weapons or tools, this one looked like art. It was made of some kind of crystalline material that caught and reflected starlight in patterns that seemed almost alive. The vessel was roughly 2 kilometers long, making it large by human standards, but tiny compared to the Leviathan. Scan results coming in, Walsh reported from his science station. The ship appears to be conducting detailed planetary surveys of the fourth world. I'm detecting multiple scanning beams, analyzing everything from mineral deposits to atmospheric composition. They're being very thorough. Lieutenant Tony Rivera at the tactical station added his report. No weapons signatures detected, Commander. The vessel appears to be completely unarmed. It's definitely a science ship. Morrison felt some of the tension leave his shoulders. An unarmed research vessel was the best possible first contact scenario. These aliens seemed to be explorers and scientists rather than warriors or conquerors. Harper, any response to our presence? Morrison asked. Not yet, sir. They might not have detected us, or they could be deciding how to respond. Their technology is different enough that our ships might look as strange to them as theirs does to. U.S. Morrison made his decision. Take us closer, but keep our approach slow and non-threatening. I want them to see us coming, but not feel cornered. Harper, prepare a basic mathematical communication sequence. If these are scientists, they should understand universal constants. The Leviathan moved forward like a mountain deciding to relocate. Its massive bulk cut through space with surprising grace, while the smaller alien vessel continued its planetary surveys. Morrison wondered what the aliens thought when they first detected the huge human warship approaching their position. Soon, he would find out exactly what first contact felt like when two species met among the infinite darkness between stars. The alien ship detected the Leviathan when the massive human vessel was still 3 million kilometers away. Research Commander Ziska felt her hearts skip a beat as the sensor displays showed something impossible approaching their position. The object was enormous, easily 6 times larger than their own research vessel, and it was moving with clear purpose toward their location. Ziska was a member of the Zelani Confederation, a peaceful alliance of scientific species that had been exploring the galaxy for over 1,000 years. Her people looked somewhat like tall, slender humans, but with pale blue skin and large dark eyes that could see across a wider spectrum of light. The Zelani had never encountered a hostile species in all their travels among the stars. Commander called her sensor operator Vesna from across the crystalline bridge. The approaching vessel is unlike anything in our databases. Its energy signature suggests incredibly advanced technology, possibly more sophisticated than our own. Ziska studied the readings with growing excitement rather than fear. The Zelani were natural explorers who lived for moments like this. Finding a new intelligent species was the greatest discovery any research team could make. She had dreamed of this moment since joining the Confederation Scientific Corps 30 years ago. Begin first contact protocols. She ordered her crew of 43 scientists and researchers. Prepare the universal mathematical sequences and ready our cultural exchange databases. This could be the most important discovery in Zelani history. The alien vessel continued its approach at a steady pace that seemed designed not to appear threatening. Daiziska appreciated this consideration. Many species might have rushed forward aggressively or fled in panic, but these unknown beings were showing wisdom and caution in their first meeting. On the human ship, Lieutenant Amy Harper worked frantically to establish communication with the alien vessel. Her screens showed the crystalline ship responding to their approach with its own attempts at contact. Mathematical sequences began flowing between the two vessels like digital handshakes across the void of space. They're transmitting prime numbers. Commander, Harper reported to Morrison, moving up through the sequence perfectly. These are definitely intelligent beings trying to establish peaceful communication. Communications specialist Tony Rivera had joined Harper at her station, his expertise in xenolinguistics proving valuable, even though no human had ever actually spoken with aliens before. Rivera was a young man with an incredible talent for languages and pattern recognition that made him perfect for this historic moment. I'm detecting multiple transmission frequencies, Rivera said. They're not just sending mathematics. There are complex data streams that might be cultural information, scientific data, maybe even artistic expressions. These beings are trying to share everything they can about themselves. Morrison felt a mixture of excitement and responsibility settling over him like a heavy coat. Every decision he made in the next few hours could determine how humanity was perceived by these aliens and possibly by other species throughout the galaxy. The weight of representing his entire species was almost overwhelming. Dr. Kevin Walsh hurried between different science stations as data flowed in from the alien vessel. His excitement was infectious as he called out discoveries to anyone who would listen. The alien ship was sharing technological information that could advance human science by decades or even centuries. Commander, they're transmitting detailed scans of the planetary system, Walsh announced. Their sensing technology is far beyond ours. They can analyze molecular structures from orbit and detect life signs we never even knew existed. This is incredible. The alien ship, which the humans had started calling Contact One, began sharing cultural data through mathematical and visual representations. Pictures flowed across human screens, showing alien cities that looked like crystal gardens, growing from the surface of distant worlds. Art and music translated into mathematical formulas that spoke of beauty beyond human understanding. Dai Sizka watched similar displays, showing what her crew believed was the first glimpse of human civilization. The images were difficult to interpret because human technology was so different from Zelani methods, but they suggested a species that had achieved remarkable advances in engineering and space travel. These beings must have incredible dedication to scientific achievement, Dai Sizka told her crew. Look at the size of their vessel. It must require enormous resources and technological sophistication to build something so massive. They clearly value exploration and research as much as we do. The Zelani had no concept of military vessels as humans understood them. Their entire civilization had developed without warfare or conflict between intelligent species. When they looked at the Leviathan, they saw what they assumed was the ultimate expression of peaceful exploration and scientific research. Back on the human bridge, Morrison was beginning to relax as the peaceful nature of the contact became clear. The aliens were sharing freely, communicating openly, and showing every sign of being exactly the kind of species humans had hoped to meet among the stars. Rivera, can you establish real-time communication yet? Morrison asked. Working on it, sir. Their language structure is complex, but I'm beginning to identify patterns. Give me another hour and I should be able to attempt basic conversation. Captain. Lisa Grant stood beside Morrison, watching the cultural exchange taking place on their screens. Her military instincts were still alert, but even she was beginning to believe this first contact was going better than anyone had dared hope. They seem genuinely peaceful, Commander, Grant observed. No aggressive maneuvers, no attempts to scan our weapons or defensive systems. They're acting like pure scientists. The next few hours passed in a blur of scientific and cultural exchange. Both species shared information about their home worlds, their history, their art and music and literature. The humans learned that the Zelani Confederation contained dozens of peaceful species working together to explore and understand a galaxy. The Zelani learned about human achievements in engineering, medicine, and space exploration. They were particularly impressed by human determination and the speed with which humanity had spread across the stars. To them, humans appeared to be the ultimate explorers, building enormous vessels to carry their civilization to the farthest reaches of space. Lieutenant Carl Peters worked quietly at his weapons control station, running routine diagnostic checks on the Leviathan's massive arsenal. Peters was a careful officer who believed in keeping all systems perfectly maintained and ready for action. He had no reason to suspect that his next routine procedure would change everything about this peaceful first contact. As Peters began his standard weapons diagnostic, checking each system for proper function and response time, he had no idea that one simple mistake was about to turn humanity's greatest diplomatic opportunity into their worst first impression among the stars. Lieutenant Carl Peters pressed the diagnostic button on his weapons control panel without thinking about it. The routine check was something he did 3 times during every shift, a habit drilled into him during years of military service. His fingers moved across the holographic controls with practiced ease as he initiated the standard systems test that would verify every weapon on the Leviathan was functioning properly. The massive ship's arsenal came alive in response to his commands. Plasma cannons that could melt through asteroid fields began their power-up sequence. Antimatter torpedo tubes loaded with warheads capable of cracking moons cycled through their targeting protocols. Point defense laser grids designed to destroy. Incoming missiles activated their tracking systems. The entire weapons array of the most powerful warship humanity had ever built suddenly focused its attention on the small alien vessel floating peacefully nearby. On the Zelani ship, every alarm system activated at once. The crystalline bridge filled with flashing lights and warning sounds as their sensors detected the massive energy buildup happening aboard the human vessel. Research Commander Thizis Ka stared at her displays in shock and growing terror as the readings showed weapons powerful enough to destroy entire fleets, all pointing directly at her ship. Commander, Sensor Operator Vesna called out, her voice shaking with fear. The alien vessel has just activated what appears to be a complete weapons array. Energy signatures suggest firepower levels beyond anything in our databases. They could destroy us 1,000 times over with what they're pointing at us right now. Daisaska felt her blood turn cold as the reality of their situation became clear. The beings they had thought were peaceful scientists and explorers were actually warriors with weapons that could sterilize planets. A massive vessel she had, admired as a triumph of scientific engineering, was really a warship designed for destruction on an unimaginable scale. Are they targeting us specifically? Daiska asked, hoping desperately that this was some kind of misunderstanding. All weapons. Systems are locked onto our position, Vesna replied. There's no doubt about their intent. Commander, what do we do? Our ship has no weapons and no defenses against this level of firepower. On the Leviathan's bridge, Morrison realized what had happened the moment he saw the tactical displays light up with weapon signatures. His face went white as he understood that their peaceful first contact had just turned into what looked like a deliberate act of aggression against an unarmed scientific vessel. "Peters, what the hell are you doing?" Morrison shouted across the bridge. Peters looked up from his station in confusion. "Just running standard diagnostics, sir. All weapon systems are functioning normally and ready for action." "Power down. Everything immediately," Morrison ordered. "Right now, before you start an interstellar war." But the damage was already done. The Zelani ship's sensors had detected the massive energy buildup and recorded the fact that human weapons were now trained on their position. Even as Peters began the shutdown sequence, the alien vessel was already interpreting every human action through the lens of imminent destruction. Captain Lisa Grant watched the alien ship's energy signature change as their engines began spooling up to maximum power. "Commander, they're preparing to run." "Can't say I blame them after what just happened." Dr. Kevin Walsh looked up from his science station with horror written across his face. "The cultural exchange has stopped completely. They've cut all communication channels and activated what appears to be an emergency distress beacon. Commander, they think we're about to attack them." Communications specialist Tony Rivera worked frantically at his station, trying to re-establish contact with the alien vessel. "I'm transmitting on all frequencies, explaining that it was an accident, but they're not responding. Their ship is broadcasting some kind of warning signal that's probably going out to their entire species." Morrison felt sick as he realized what was happening. Humanity's first contact with alien life was turning into a disaster that could affect relations with every intelligent species in the galaxy. The peaceful scientific meeting he had hoped for was becoming exactly the kind of aggressive first impression that could make humans enemies throughout known space. On the Zelani ship, Daisiska was recording final messages for her people, while her crew prepared for what they believed would be their destruction. She spoke quickly into the ship's communication system, describing the encounter with what she now knew were hostile aliens who built massive weapons of war and used them to terrorize peaceful explorers. "We attempted peaceful contact with an unknown species," Daisiska said into the recorder. "They appeared to respond positively at first, sharing cultural information and seeming to engage in scientific exchange. However, this was apparently a deception designed to lower our defenses. Once we were vulnerable, they activated enough weaponry to destroy our entire exploration fleet. This species builds vessels designed purely for war and uses them to threaten those who approach in peace." Her science officer, KSVA, added his own observations to the record. "Their technology is focused entirely on destruction rather than exploration or discovery. The vessel appears to carry no scientific equipment beyond basic sensors, but is equipped with weapons that could eliminate entire civilizations. This species should be considered extremely dangerous to all peaceful beings." The distress signal, broadcast by the Zelani ship, was picked up by relay stations throughout their space, carrying the warning about aggressive humans to dozens of other species in the local galactic region. Within hours, the message would reach the governments of multiple alien civilizations, all of whom would learn that humanity's first action upon meeting peaceful aliens had been to threaten them with overwhelming force. Morrison watched helplessly as the alien vessel began moving away from their position. The beautiful crystalline ship that had seemed like a bridge between species was now fleeing in terror from what its crew saw as a monstrous weapon of war. "Should we pursue them, Commander?" Grant asked. "Maybe we can still explain what happened." Morrison stared at the retreating alien ship and tried to calculate the damage that had already been done. The weapon's activation had lasted less than 30 seconds, but those 30 seconds might have just determined how every alien species in the galaxy would view humanity for generations to come. "Yes," Morrison decided. "We have to try to fix This before it gets any worse. But carefully. They're already terrified of us, and one wrong move could turn this from a misunderstanding into proof that we really are as aggressive as they think. The Leviathan began following the fleeing Zelani vessel, its massive engines easily matching the smaller ship's desperate attempt at escape. Morrison could only hope that the pursuit wouldn't make everything even worse than it already was. Commander Jake Morrison made the decision that would haunt him for the rest of his career. He ordered the Leviathan to pursue the fleeing Zelani vessel, hoping to explain the weapon's malfunction and restore peaceful contact between their species. What he saw as a desperate attempt to fix a terrible misunderstanding, the aliens interpreted as confirmation of their worst fears about human aggression. The massive Titan-class warship accelerated smoothly through space, its advanced engines easily matching the smaller alien vessel's frantic escape attempt. From the bridge, Morrison watched the distance between the ships steadily decrease as the Leviathan's superior technology made the chase a foregone conclusion. Maintaining pursuit course, Navigator Rachel Stone reported from her station. At current speeds, we'll overtake them in approximately 40 minutes. Their propulsion system appears to be running at maximum capacity, but it's no match for our engine output. Captain Lisa Grant studied the tactical display showing both vessels' positions. Her military experience told her that pursuing a fleeing ship was exactly the wrong thing to do if they wanted to appear peaceful. But she understood Morrison's desperate need to fix the situation before it got completely out of control. Commander, their distress signal is still broadcasting? Communications specialist Tony Rivera reported. The transmission is getting stronger as we get closer to their space. Whatever they're telling their people about us, every alien civilization in this region is going to hear it. On the Zelani research vessel, Research Commander Thezis Ka watched the massive human warship gaining on them with the relentless efficiency of a predator hunting prey. Her crew worked frantically to squeeze every bit of speed from their engines, but everyone knew it was hopeless. The alien vessel was simply too powerful and too fast for them to escape. Engine output at 112% of rated capacity, Chief Engineer Relka reported from the engine room. We can't maintain this speed much longer without risking complete system failure. Commander, we need to make a decision about what to do when they catch us. Daisiska stared at the display showing the approaching human ship. Every few minutes it seemed to grow larger and more threatening as the distance between them decreased. She had already sent detailed reports about the encounter to Zelani Command, warning them about the aggressive species that built massive weapons of war and used them to terrorize peaceful explorers. Continue broadcasting our observations about this species, Zeska ordered. If we don't survive this encounter, at least other civilizations will know what they're dealing with. These humans must not be allowed to deceive other peaceful species. The way they deceived us? The chase led through the outer regions of the Kepler 442 system, past dead worlds and asteroid fields that bore witness to the cosmic drama unfolding between two species meeting for the first time. The Zelani vessel tried to use a dense asteroid field as cover, hoping the floating rocks might slow down or confuse their massive pursuer. This plan backfired spectacularly when the Leviathan's automated point defense systems began destroying asteroids that came too close to the hull. The lasers and particle beams designed to protect the ship from incoming missiles treated the Space Orcs as potential threats and eliminated them with casual efficiency. From the Zelani perspective, watching the human ship casually destroy asteroids the size of small moons was a terrifying display of overwhelming firepower. Daisa realized that the humans could have vaporized her vessel at any point during the chase, but were choosing not to, which somehow made the situation even more frightening. They're toying with us, Science Officer Kesvai observed as another asteroid exploded in brilliant light. They could end this whenever they want, but they're demonstrating their power instead. This species enjoys psychological warfare. Dr. Kevin Walsh on the Leviathan's bridge was trying desperately to establish clearer communications with the fleeing aliens. His screens filled with mathematical proofs and technical diagrams as he transmitted detailed explanations of the weapon's malfunction, complete with engineering schematics showing how the diagnostic system had accidentally activated their arsenal. "I'm sending everything I can think of to prove it was an accident," Walsh reported to Morrison. "Technical manuals, system logs, even video recordings of Peters running the diagnostic. If they're really scientists, they should be able to understand the engineering principles involved." Communications specialist Rivera added his own attempts at peaceful contact. "I'm transmitting cultural information, music, art, everything we shared during the initial contact. I'm trying to remind them that we were having a peaceful exchange before the weapon's activation." But the damage to alien perceptions had already spread far beyond this single encounter. The Zelani distress signal was being relayed through established galactic communication networks, carrying warnings about humanity's aggressive nature to civilizations thousands of light years away. Lieutenant Amy Harper monitored the expanding wave of alien communications spreading outward from their position. "Commander, I'm detecting response signals from at least 12 different sources. The message about us is reaching other alien species, and they're starting to communicate with each other about what to do." Morrison felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him like the gravity of a massive planet. Every minute of this chase was making humanity look more aggressive and hostile to alien observers. The longer it went on, the harder it would be to convince anyone that humans were peaceful explorers rather than dangerous conquerors. "Their engines are starting to fail," Engineering Chief Brad Collins reported from his monitoring station. "The alien ship is pushing their propulsion system beyond safe limits. If they keep this up much longer, they're going to suffer catastrophic engine failure." The situation reached its breaking point when the Zelani vessel's overstressed engines began showing signs of imminent breakdown. Flashes of energy erupted from their propulsion units as safety systems struggled to prevent a complete meltdown. That would leave them helpless in space. Datai Sesika made the hardest decision of her life. Rather than risk her crew in an engine explosion, she ordered the ship to stop and face whatever the humans planned to do to them. A crystalline vessel slowly came to a halt in the void between worlds, its engines cycling down to emergency power as the massive human warship approached like a metal mountain moving through space. "All stop," Vesisia ordered her crew. "Prepare. Final transmissions to our people. If this is where our journey ends, we'll face it with dignity and ensure that other species learn from our sacrifice." The Leviathan closed the final distance between the ships, its enormous bulk casting the smaller Zelani vessel into shadow. Morrison stood on his bridge, knowing that the next few minutes would determine whether humanity's first contact with alien life ended in understanding or tragedy. The two ships floated in the darkness between worlds, one massive and threatening, the other small and helpless. Commander Jake Morrison stared at the alien vessel through the Leviathan's main viewing screen and felt the weight of history pressing down on him. Every decision he made in the next few minutes would determine how humanity was remembered by every intelligent species in the galaxy. Dr. Helen Carter rushed onto the bridge carrying data tablets and looking more determined than Morrison had ever seen her. Carter was the ship's xenobiologist, a woman who had spent her entire career studying the possibility of alien life. Now faced with actual aliens who were terrified of her species, she was not about to let fear and misunderstanding destroy humanity's greatest opportunity. "Commander, I need to try something," Carter said as she took over the communications station from Tony Rivera. "I've been analyzing their cultural transmissions from the initial contact. These beings value knowledge and scientific discovery above everything else. If I can appeal to their scientific curiosity, I might be able to break through their fear." Morrison nodded knowing they had nothing left to lose. Do whatever you think might work, Doctor. We're running out of time and options. Carter began transmitting everything she could think of that might prove human peaceful intentions. She sent detailed records of human scientific achievements, medical advances that had saved millions of lives, art and music that showed the beauty of human creativity, and personal stories about families and children that demonstrated humanity's capacity for love and compassion. On the Zelani vessel, Research Commander Thezis Ka sat in her command chair and waited for whatever the humans planned to do to her crew. She had recorded final messages for her family and prepared her ship's databases for emergency transmission to Zelani space. If her crew was about to be destroyed, at least their knowledge and warning about human aggression would survive. Commander, we're receiving new transmissions from the human vessel, Sensor Operator Visna reported. The data streams are different from what they sent before. These appear to be personal communications rather than technical information. Daisis Ka looked at her displays as the human transmissions began filling her screens with images and sounds that told stories of ordinary life aboard the massive warship. She saw pictures of crew members with their families, children playing in ship recreational areas, scientists working together on peaceful research projects, and medical personnel saving lives in the ship's hospital facilities. Dr. Carter continued her desperate attempt to communicate humanity's true nature. She transmitted records of human exploration missions that had helped other species, rescue operations where human ships had saved lives during natural disasters, and detailed accounts of human laws that protected peaceful contact with any alien life they might encounter. These beings build weapons because they're afraid, Carter explained in her transmissions. They explore space not to conquer, but to find their place among the stars. They carry weapons because they don't know what dangers might exist in the galaxy, but they hope never to use them except to protect innocent life. Science Officer Kevin Walsh joined Carter's efforts by transmitting detailed technical specifications showing that the Leviathan carried extensive scientific equipment alongside its weapons. The ship had laboratories for studying alien life, medical facilities for treating any injuries during first contact, and cultural exchange protocols designed to facilitate peaceful relations with new species. Slowly, carefully, the Zelani began to understand that they had misinterpreted the humans' intentions. The weapons activation that had terrified them was indeed an accident, and the massive vessel they had seen as a pure warship actually carried equipment for peaceful exploration and scientific research. Commander, Vesna said quietly, I think we may have made a serious error in judgment about these beings. Their transmissions suggest a species that builds weapons for protection, but prefers peaceful contact when possible. Dai Siska studied the continuing stream of human cultural information. She saw evidence of a species that had struggled with war and conflict, but had learned to value peace and cooperation. The massive ship that had terrified her crew was not a weapon of conquest, but a vessel designed to protect human explorers. While they searched for friends among the stars, open a communication channel, Daisis Ka ordered. It's time we had a proper conversation with our new neighbors. The first real conversation between humans and aliens began hesitantly with both species working through translation difficulties and cultural misunderstandings. Morrison and Daisis Ka spoke through computer translators that turned thoughts into mathematics and mathematics into words that both species could understand. We apologize for the fear we caused, Morrison said through the translation system. Our weapons activation was an accident during routine maintenance. We never intended to threaten your peaceful mission. We apologize for our hasty judgment, Daisis Ka replied. We have never encountered a species that needed weapons for protection. Our civilization developed without warfare, and we did not understand that other species might face different challenges. Over the next several hours, Both crews worked together to establish proper diplomatic relations. The humans learned about the Zelani Confederation and their peaceful alliance of scientific species. The Zelani learned about human history and the reasons why humanity had developed such powerful weapons while still hoping for peaceful contact with alien life. But the damage from their initial misunderstanding had already spread throughout local space. The Zelani distress signals had reached dozens of alien civilizations, all of whom now believed that humanity was an aggressive species that threatened peaceful explorers. News of human weapons and apparent hostile first contact spread through galactic communication networks faster than any attempt to correct the record. Within days of the Kepler 442 encounter, human space was surrounded by nervous alien fleets, maintaining careful distances from Earth's borders. Species that might have approached humanity with peaceful intentions now viewed humans as potential threats to galactic peace and stability. Morrison realized that humanity's military-first approach to space exploration had created exactly the reputation they had hoped to avoid. The Leviathan and ships, like it, were designed to protect humanity from unknown dangers. But to alien observers, they made humanity appear to be the danger that others needed protection from. New protocols were established requiring civilian vessels to handle all future first contact situations. The Leviathan continued its patrol duties, but now carried the knowledge that humanity's greatest weapons might also be their greatest diplomatic weakness in a galaxy full of peaceful species. The Zelani eventually became humanity's first and closest alien allies, but their relationship was forever marked by those first terrifying moments when misunderstanding nearly led to tragedy. Other species remained cautious about human intentions, and humanity spent decades working to overcome the reputation established during those critical minutes when terror replaced diplomacy. Captain Lisa Grant delivered the final assessment that would guide human policy for generations to come. "We built these ships to protect humanity from the darkness between stars," she told Morrison as they watched the Zelani vessel depart for home. "We never considered that to others looking at use from the outside, we might appear to be that darkness ourselves."